at the Roy P. Drachman Agua Caliente Regional Park. My name is Matt Smoker. I'm with NRPR. I'll be up here for a very short period of time. Here to welcome our guests here to my right. Everyone else is left. And I'm going to start with Robert Padilla from Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation to kind of get the show started here. So please welcome Robert to the podium and everyone enjoy.
Good morning, good morning. My name is Robert Padilla. I am the Deputy Director of Pima County Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation. Welcome to Roy P. Drachman Agua Caliente Park. We are glad you could join us for the dedication of the Pond 1 renovation project. I am pleased to be able to finally showcase the culmination of this project. This project was a joint partnership effort between Pima County's Natural Resources, Parks and Recreation, the Regional Flood Control District, and the Friends of Agua Caliente. The expansion of the main island and the new bridge you crossed this morning are just two components of this project designed to conserve groundwater, enhance wildlife habitat, and improve public access. Before I begin calling speakers to the podium, I would like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. At this time, I would like to bring up the Honorable Steve Christie, Pima County District 4 Supervisor.
Good morning, everyone. I want to make a couple of quick comments of some folks that we're expecting here today, and one is going to be speaking later, and that is the great-grandson of the benefactor of Roy P. Drachman Agua Caliente Park. His great-grandson, Roy P. Drachman's great-grandson, Max Drachman, is here. Also, we have board members and members of the Friends of Agua Caliente Park, founding member Sandy Serra, and Friends of Agua Caliente Treasurer and Membership Chair Jim Nall, and they will be speaking later. And we also have the President of the Parklands Foundation, Mike Helen, and the Vice President, John Fenton. So we're honored and pleased to have them. And we're also honored and pleased to have the grandson of Roy P. Drachman, my good friend, Boyd Drachman. He's here as well. And I was noting, preparing my comments for today's dedication for Pond 1, I came across texts of what I said 5 years ago at the dedication of Pond 2. And much of what was dedicated then is equally applicable today, some 5 years later. So accordingly, as I view it, one of the core responsibilities and priorities of Pima County government is to ensure that citizens have access to recreation and parklands in order to maintain the high level of what we call quality of life. There is no more fitting an entity contributing to our high quality of life in Pima County than the Roy P. Drachman Agua Caliente Regional Park. Roy P. Drachman, a leading citizen and a member of a prominent Tucson pioneer family, as I said, whose grandson and great-grandson are with us here today, loved his town and community. He did much for and he gave much to Pima County, recognizing that our natural high Sonoran desert was a regional treasure and something to be nurtured, protected, and preserved. It was through Roy P. Drachman's generosity of over $200,000 and his vision that we are reaping the benefits of today of our Agua Caliente Regional Park, truly a jewel in the crown of our park system. Tourism, recreation, and natural conservancy are all positively affected by this park and its ponds. We owe a great debt to Roy P. Drachman, and these pond projects, especially today's celebration of the renovation of Pond Number 1, are ways that we can repay that debt to him. Now we can move forward, along with the Friends of the Agua Caliente Park, as we dedicate Pond 1. Doing so will bring security to this park, to Sonoran wildlife, to native trees and growth, and to the over 192,000 visitors per year who enjoy and experience the reason why Agua Caliente Regional Park is included on the National Register of Historic Places. It is poignantly fitting that today's celebration focuses on our region's most valuable and important asset, water. Water was just as important to our community over 165 years ago, when this spring was used as an Army encampment following the Gadsden Purchase, as well as to some 35 years ago, when Roy P. Drachman's vision became a reality, and as it is today in 2022. So here and now, we are recovering water, we are sustaining water, we are conserving water. Today's event is also an acknowledgement of collaboration and cooperation between Pima County departments, the Friends of Agua Caliente Park, and the successes they have achieved by working together towards a common goal. The county's natural resources, parks and recreation, and its flood control district departments are to be commended for their efforts in preserving Roy P. Drachman Agua Caliente Regional Park as a gift that will continue for many generations here in Pima County. Today we can celebrate and honor the past, enjoy this secluded desert oasis of the present, and confidently face the future, now knowing that the Roy P. Drachman Agua Caliente Regional Park will remain safe and secure for all of us for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Steve Christie. The next speaker I would like to call up is Suzanne Shields, the Director of the Pima County Regional Flood Control District.
Thank you, Robert, and good morning to all of you. I have the honor of being the Director of the Pima County Flood Control District, and one of my goals and what is my responsibility is to help protect riparian habitat and water resources. One of the things that the county did very early on was started to protect riparian areas, because if they're not protected, you have erosion, you have more severe flooding, and you have such a loss of critical habitat. One of the things we do at the Flood Control District is we collect funds when people disturb riparian habitat. And I'm here today because we've used those in lieu fee funds for riparian habitat to put these improvements together at Pond 1 and Pond 2. And I also want to reach out and thank the Friends of Agua Caliente Park. They were instrumental in getting the beautiful bridge rebuilt there and in getting this island improved. And they are instrumental on a daily basis with natural resources, parks, and recreation. Our partners in getting this project done included Durazo Construction, Granite Construction for the bridge, Westland Resources for the design. And one of our goals was we had to do something about water use, besides improving and upgrading the ponds. In 2004, the spring went dry, and Pima County had to start pumping groundwater, which is not a sustainable thing to be doing. So in 2006, we started planning for what could we do to improve things. One would be to line the pond so you don't have as much leakage, deepen the pond so you don't have as much evaporation. But what do you do with everything that's in the pond? So we first improved Pond 2 so that we had some place to take the fish and the turtles and have an alternate wildlife site while we did the improvements here at Pond 1. This has been wildly successful for us. Since the ponds have been lined, not only do we have water in Pond 1 and now in Pond 2, but we have saved 75% of the water we have to pump. That's 22 million gallons, which translates into 67.5 acre feet of water per year. That also reduced electricity use by 64%. We have now in the pond 2 here, we have the common longfin bass. We have Gila chub that were rescued from Sabino Canyon during the Bighorn Fire. And we have the endangered Gila top minnow, in addition to other fish and wildlife that come in here. This has really opened up so that it's a beautiful site, it's more usable, it's more accessible, and we now have water in both areas, providing different types of habitat, different types of bird viewing, and additional trails. So I'm very pleased to welcome you here. And again, a special thank you to the Friends of Agua Caliente Park. They are the first friends of a park. They've been at this for a long time and have done such good work here. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. That paved the way for the Friends of Agua Caliente. They have 2 speakers for today. First is Sandy Serra, followed by Jim Knoll.
Thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate it. I was asked to give a little bit of a history of how the Friends began. And this happened back nearly 30 years ago in October of 1993. My friend Mary Carrolls called me up one day and she said, "The bulldozers are coming." I said, "What do you mean?" "The bulldozers are coming. The county's going to tear down all of the historic buildings in the park and build a new modern visitor center."
I wasn't on the board then.
Actually, the Board of Supervisors was most helpful. This was at any rate, Mary asked me to come and bring my other neighbor. I used to live on the north side of the park, Linda Wood, and we met with Pete Filiatros, who's sitting here in the first row. Pete was a resident of the park during his teenage years. His parents bought the ranch in 1951 and sold it in 1959. And so Pete and another resident of the Tanque Verde Valley area, Georgia Riggenbach, Linda Wood and myself met on a picnic table over here in front of the ranch house. The proposed topic: what could a citizens group do to preserve the park and stop everything from being torn down? Our first project was to meet with the director of the county parks, Dan Felix. Dan was there for many years, and he moved on to the city, and he has since passed away. So as soon as we came forward and with dissension that we did not want these buildings torn down, all of a sudden, there was literally a 10-foot chain link fence went up around the ranch house. The bridge to the island had this really outrageous gate put up that blocked anybody from coming across and accessing the island. And I'm reminded when I drive down Alvernon, just north of 22nd Street, and there's a driving range there for the golf course, and you look at how tall those fences are, and so I'm really not joking when I said it was a 10-foot tall fence, that it could have been taller than that, but it was definitely designed to discourage anybody from trying to climb over. So what happened? Could we do anything? Yes, we did, and we did a lot. We started meeting with Dan. We started doing research over the park. As it turned out, at that point in time, the county was concerned because there was a bad infestation of rock squirrels in the foundation in the ranch house. The ceilings in the ranch house also contained asbestos. And so this was part of their reason for wanting to tear everything down. They assumed that nobody would stop them from their project. They had already taken the pink rose cottage over here and started tearing it down from the inside out. So structurally the building was still there, but all of the interior rooms and everything were removed. Also at that time, there was a lot of hantavirus over in New Mexico. And somewhere later on in the spring, before we gave our presentation to the board, it suddenly was coming out that there was hantavirus here at the park. So Linda Wood and I called the Pima County Health Department and said, we live adjacent to the park. Is there hantavirus here? And the health department said, no hantavirus in the park. So at any rate, Pete and his family moved in 1951 and sold it. During our preparation for presentation, Linda Wood's identical twin sister, Ann Rodriguez, was the Pima County recorder. She just retired here last year. Because of Linda's knowledge of county government and everything, we were able to do the research and give a presentation to the Board of Supervisors that would save the park. Paul Marsh was the District 4 supervisor back then. Ed Moore was another supervisor. They both met with us. There are regulations about how many supervisors can get together in a group without having an official meeting. But the other supervisors were also very supportive of the project. We also worked with the Pima County Parks Commission. It was the chairman of the Parks Commission at that point who pointed out that there was this question about hantavirus. This was literally the day before we were supposed to give a presentation to the Board of Supervisors. As part of our work, we were introduced to Linda Mayrow, who is over here in the back. At that time, she was the Pima County Cultural Resource Director. And she just reminded me that as a result of the work that we did, this was the first step for the county to begin preserving historic sites in the county area. Linda introduced us to Roby Pardee, who was a parks employee, and Jim Ayers, who was the head of the Tucson Pima County Historical Commission. Both men were extremely helpful in our work, and they have both since passed away. Our presentation to the Board of Supervisors was sometime in the spring of 1994. The chairman of the board at that time opened the meeting and said, well, is there hantavirus in the park? Nope, there's no hantavirus in the park, we replied. We gave our presentation and the board voted to save the buildings in the park. When the park director left the meeting, he was not very happy. After the meeting, after we left our the board meeting, at the call to the audience at the end of the meeting, somebody who lived in the neighborhood complained that the water tower that used to sit on an acre plot just to the east of the park, it served to supply water by gravity to the ranch house. It also was a landscaper, a surveyor's landmark for surveying out in this area. And the neighbor complained that the water tower was in danger of falling down. So the board then voted to tear down the water tower and also to tear down the old maintenance shed that was actually in pretty bad condition. When they came to tear down that water tower, they were met with a challenge because it was solid. When that tower was built, they built it right, and they didn't build it to tear it down. So after we received approval to retain the buildings, there became a chain of events. It started, the bunkhouse was the first building on here that was preserved, followed by the ranch house, and then the Pink Rose Cottage. After these items were preserved, the Audubon Society had a small gift shop inside the ranch house. With COVID, they are no longer there. So after we went through all of this, and mind you now, this was from 1994 when we received approval to preserve the buildings. Somewhere around 2000, 2001, there was a flood control employee whose job was to search for grant money for the county. And she found a project that would restore a damaged habitat. So it was a $1.2 million project, and the county then gave meetings to the people, to proposals and everything. We did meetings and proposals. They were planning on building a bullfrog wall all the way around the pond so that the frogs couldn't get into the pond.
That wasn't me.
And in the back northwest corner of the park, they were going to turn it into a cienega. A cienega, I always thought it was a really nice sounding word. It's actually a Spanish word meaning swamp. They projected that possibly 100 years or more ago, there was actually a swamp over there, which is where the Agua Caliente wash runs through, close to the park. So this went around for probably a year or so, and in the end, there was so little public support, including environmentalists, for the project, that the Corps of Engineers decided that it wasn't a good place to bring their project, and they left. After that, we started working on getting the property listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Linda Mayrow gave us a lot of help with that, as did others, but it still took about 10 years. So we now are listed on the National Register. The next on the list was to restore the ponds and improve the water usage in the park, because when I moved out here in 1986, all three ponds were continually flowing. The water was in a standpipe that went under Soldier Trail, and on the south side of Limberlost Road there was a shallow pond under the cottonwood trees. As we got into drought times, gradually the pond went away, and pretty soon the water flow from the park was so low that pond 2 and 3 dried up. So at any rate, flood control district came to the rescue, and they were able to, and Suzanne has already explained to you how they did that. and they were able to restore Pond 2 and now Pond 1. One of our original things when the fence went up around the ranch house and the bridge to the island was blocked off was to restore that bridge and make it ADA compliant and reopen the island out here. It dragged on and on and on. We actually had people who donated, and we have held a fund just for the restoration of that bridge, which if the money hasn't gone to the county yet, it soon will go to the county. It was in a special fund. And today we're celebrating the reopening of the bridge to the island along with the restoration of ponds 1 and 2. And thank you very much.
And I just want to take about 30 seconds to kind of summarize what our generous members of the Friends group have been able to do lately for the park. We have a really, really great relationship right now with NRPR, and we have about 300 members, which contribute probably about $15,000 to $20,000 annually to support this park. And so some of the things we've been able to do, we helped fund the bridge, as Sandy mentioned. We do benches. We've done the trail, we've done picnic tables, we have a bottle filling station that we're going to eventually that we'll put out over by the restroom, so that'll make it a lot user-friendly. We've done signage, and we've also helped do the nature and birding trail and provide funds for the history talks. So those have been great efforts that our contributions from the Friends group has been able to provide. We also help source volunteers here in the park. So the ranch house right now is being staffed by volunteer support, many of which are part of the Friends group. We also have docents that will do history tours and other kinds of activities around the park. So these have all helped provide some great manpower for the park. So just, I think our outlook for the park is really, really good. The county has done a phenomenal job at restoring the 2 ponds and this island and building the waterfowl island over there. So it's really been really great, and we have a great working relationship with them. So I just want to pass on a thanks. We have a lot of the Friends group here, and I would like to pass on my thanks for all of them for their support to the park. Thanks.
Thank you, Sandy and Jim, for your comments. Our last speaker today is Max Drachman. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. Max.
Thank you, Robert. Just to touch on some brief points about the history of the park. I believe they have artifacts of human activity here from over about 5,000 years ago, back 3,500 BC. They've got evidence of the Hohokam people here as recently as 1150 AD. It was an army encampment right after the Gadsden Purchase, and was well on its way to, after being held by several ranchers, on its way to, finding like what happens to most nice places. It was going to be a cookie-cutter housing development or potentially an overpriced resort. And I think Mr. Christie said that there's now 190,000 visitors a year coming here. Outstanding. This land is special. I can tell you that because I've hunted all of these ridges. I've hunted the desert on the other side, everywhere, and it is not teeming with life. There's life here because there's water. And finding places with clear water in this part of the world is incredibly rare. My great-grandfather, Roy P. Drachman, was born in 1907 in a small town about 30 miles from here called Tucson. He had an amazing life. He had lunch with Wyatt Earp. One of my favorite stories of his was when he talked about Wyatt Earp. He was not the glorified figure that he is now. Back then he was more of like a local outlaw terrorist shooting up the West. He played semi-pro baseball. He was drafted into World War II in 1944. He was instrumental in bringing the Cleveland Indians here for spring training. He brought a company called Hughes Corporation with Howard Hughes, which later merged with a company called Raytheon in '97. And he was a philanthropist before it was cool. My dad, who's I don't think Boyd would describe him as warm and fuzzy, told me the story about this park is my great-grandfather called Chuck Huckleberry and said there's this really special park on the east side of town and the county should buy it. And Chuck said, you know, that's great, but money doesn't grow on trees over here. Why don't you step up and help us out a little bit? And they came together and came up with a deal and bought this place. So he passed about 20 years ago. I can tell you that he would be incredibly grateful to the county and to the Friends of Agua Caliente Park for everything you've done to keep this land as immaculate as it is today. I've been coming here for over 30 years. It's never looked this good. So thank you to the Friends, thank you to the county. Appreciate you having me. My daughter's right there in the yellow headband, yellow shirt. She has books. If anybody would like a free copy of my great-grandfather's book talking about Tucson from 1900 and on. It's called From Cowtown to Desert Metropolis. It's a great book. It's worth checking out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max. Before we get to the ribbon cutting, that will be the conclusion of today's dedication. I do want to provide recognition to some dignitaries that are in the audience today that haven't already been mentioned. We have Carmine DeBonis, who's the Deputy County Administrator for Public Works. We have both Parks Commissioners here representing District 4. That would be Miss Anita Kelman, as well as Mr. Doug Kenyon. I also want to give a shout out to County Park staff. As you can see, this park is beautiful, and it's because of their tireless efforts of maintaining this park up to pretty high standards. At the conclusion of the dedication, park staff are going to offer tours of Pond 1 as well as Pond 2. Out in the courtyard here, we will have Axel providing tours to Pond 1 and Christine providing tours to Pond 2. Lastly, I want to thank the Friends of Agua Caliente for providing light refreshments and snacks. Please make sure you help yourself at the end of the dedication. And I also want to extend a sincere thanks to the Tanque Verde High School Jazz Band for providing today's music. At this time, I would like to call Mr. Honorable Steve Christie, Suzanne Shields, Pete from the Friends of Agua Caliente, and Max Drachman to the ribbon. This concludes the dedication. There are some posters by the Refreshments that are free for you to take home, remembering today's event. Have a great day.